This man has a lot of courage. Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs told Fox News' Megyn Kelly that something didn't feel right. And he went on in a RT article that we have on Infowars.com. Michael Hastings' wife vows to take down whoever did this. That's a quote. And that's pretty bombshell. So he joins us now. And I think the best place to start was who Michael Hastings was, how Staff Sergeant Biggs points out in the quotes here that, hey, if this happened to me, Michael Hastings would be sticking up and investigating for me. And that everybody else is too scared to talk. Wow. So wherever you'd like to start, sir, I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thanks for having me on.
You bet. You've got the floor. I mean, tell us whatever you think you should get across to people.
All right. Well, like you said, back in 2008, I was deployed in Coast Province in Afghanistan. And my commander pulled me into his office, and he's like, well, we're going to have two embedded journalists, a photographer and a journalist, and they're going to follow you around for the next week or so. So the next week or so turned into almost about 3 months. And you get to learn a lot about a person in 1 day of combat, let alone 3 months of being around them. This was his first time in that kind of a situation, too, if I'm not mistaken, actually in Afghanistan doing that. And I was telling people, they were like, well, how was Michael? I was like, he was a fearless guy. I mean, I can remember one day in particular, right around the Pakistan border, we were being ambushed. And as the firefight's going over, I'm looking on, or look over to Michael, and he's looking up. He's like, is it over yet? He's like, is there more? And, like, he just looked excited, like he loved his job. And there wasn't a thing to scare him. So when this email comes to me, and, well, from 2008 on, him and I would talk all the time. He would ask me how I was doing, how, I was telling him I was having nightmares. I was coming back. I was dealing with a lot of stuff with, some deaths of people over there, and it was just a hard time. And Mike was one of the guys that called me up from time to time and check on me. So we built a pretty strong relationship in that sense. And from time to time, he would email me and tell me about stories he was working on and ask me what I thought about this, if he ever wrote about something that had to do with the military. I remember when the story broke on General McChrystal, he gave me a call, and he's like, man, I'm pretty scared, and, I told him, I was like, you got every reason to be, brother. I was like, you just basically got a general of a war fired. I'm pretty sure that doesn't sit too well with him right now. And he went on to just share concerns about how, he knew there was probably a chance that people would be looking into him, and I completely understand that. So last Monday morning, I wake up and I get this email from Mike, and usually the emails start off with, hey, brother, how's it going? How's your family? How are you adjusting to civilian life because I'm out of the military now? This time it was just that. Everyone has the email because I released it, saying that he believed the FBI was going to be investigating his colleagues and close friends. And it just didn't seem like something that he normally started the email off with. And when I read it, I just got this horrible feeling. I was like, something's not right. I immediately called him, and I didn't get an answer. I was like, well, he's probably busy. So I go to school and try to brush it off. I told a few of my friends, I was like, what do you think about this? I don't think something's right. What if a friend sent you this email? How would you react? And a lot of them were like, man, that's scary stuff. I don't know what to do. So I go to a work event. I come home, and a friend calls me that night. She's like, hey, did you hear what happened to Mike? And I said, what do you mean? Yeah, he died in a crash. So I jumped on turned on my TV, got on the internet, and started looking up stuff, and started watching these videos, and things just didn't add up. First email, then I'm reading that he called the WikiLeaks lawyer, which that I'm not sure about. I know he contacted a lawyer in recent days, but the whole WikiLeaks lawyer, I'm not sure about that. But then the crash, why was there an investigative reporter happened to be filming with his dash cam right as Michael drove by? I mean, who's out filming an empty street at 4 something in the morning? I mean, all these alarms were going off, and my gut feeling from day one, from before it happened, I knew that something wasn't right. There's too many things that added up. And
did Afghanistan and all those years of combat, did that hone your gut instinct?
Yeah. Just anybody, if you know someone and they act out of out of reason, out of like their normal behavior, you know, that should go off on, that should send a red light off to anybody with, you know, that's had a close friend.
Let's talk about, and then all the points you want to get into, but let's talk about why you decided to go public. You talked about the rest of the people that were sent the email as close friends and family like yourself are scared. And I know you've had a chance to talk to some of them. Describe how they're scared. And then there's the FBI denying he sent emails and stuff. Meanwhile, you know there was an email, so I guess that's why you released it. Or correct me if I'm wrong. But let's get into, they're too scared to release an email that the FBI may raid us and they're talking to my friends and family. He wouldn't lie about that. And then meanwhile, I'm going off the radar. I'm going into hiding. Wow. I mean, I hope I don't say, I'm going into hiding. Look out. And then my car blows up. I mean, wow.
Yeah. I actually emailed some of the people that were on that he sent the names on the email to, some of the people at BuzzFeed. And I said, hey, did you guys get that email? Now he's dead. Does anybody else think that's weird? I got one response back, yeah. And then I go, yeah, question mark, question mark, question mark. That's it. And I waited 5 minutes. And I mean, 5 minutes, you know, after your friend died seems like an eternity. And no one's saying anything. And I'm getting on the internet and I'm like, all right, somebody's got to come out and say something. Someone's got to, I can't be the only person that thinks this is just weird. So I asked my mom, asked some people, and they're like, well, what, you know, I was like, what should I do? And everyone's like, man, that's some scary stuff to get into. And I just sat there for a minute and basically said, F it, I'm just going to do it. And Mike would do the same thing for me. He's not going to sit back and roll over. And, you know, I'm not a journalist. I'm not an investigator. I don't know what steps to take. All I know is I lost a friend. I'm pissed off. I want to find out what happened. And like I told his wife and some of his other friends, I'm going to do whatever the hell I got to do to figure this out. And if at the end of the day it turns out to be an accident, then whatever. But right now, things don't add up to be that way. There's too many unanswered questions that need to be, there's too many just...
Sure. Well, let me tell you when you're really going to wake up. I've been physically attacked by the shadow government. I've been threatened. I've seen amazing things. And so many times, that's why we've got to engage in investigative journalists and investigative journalism is so you'll find out for yourself how corrupt things have gotten. I mean, look at the NSA being used against the Associated Press. Look at pro-life groups and Tea Parties being harassed by the IRS. I mean, this government is out of control. It's been persecuting journalists and whistleblowers like no other president before them. And so it's not a stretch to say, hey, he's got the biggest story ever. Tell us about that. I mean, that's in the email. And he also reportedly told his wife that. But specifically, give us what info you have. Staff Sergeant Joseph Biggs here joining us in an in-depth interview, not just sound bites on Fox News. I mean, for me, that's big, too, that I'm on this big story. The FBI is probably going to raid us. They're questioning people. I'm going into hiding. Boom.
Yeah, like I said, just that, all that leading up, that email and then that happening, and just that, there's too many, he was on edge. I mean, everyone that knew him was agreeing the days leading up, he was very on edge. And like you said, in the subject line mentioning the NSA and the thought that the FBI was questioning his friends and associates, that alone makes his death soon afterwards suspicious.
Let me say this. Let me say this while I have you. I'm begging you to get a hold of his wife, who you know. And believe me, I've studied this. I can put her in contact with national security whistleblowers and people that have really fought the system and won. Whatever she knows the investigation was, she's either got to tell the government, call the FBI, and say, I'm never going to talk about this, or she's got to go public with all of it. And the safest thing is to go public immediately. Do you have any idea what it was dealing with the CIA that he said was the biggest thing he'd ever had?
That's all she knew. She didn't know anything else. She told me. She said, Mike would not tell me anything. She said, you know, basically, from the sound of that, would just be for her own protection.
Yeah, of course.
I spoke to her at the memorial service, what was it, this past Saturday. A buddy of mine called me and said, hey, there's a plane leaving in 2 hours. Let's go up there to the service. So I hopped on and flew up to Vermont and stayed at a hotel up there, and then went and saw his wife and family and all of them. And, you know, she pretty much came out and said that he wouldn't tell her anything at all. So I don't think you're going to get anything out of her in that sense.
Well, that's good for her. That's good for her, because if he told any other colleagues anything, They're all under NSA surveillance, and if this was a hit, which my gut and all evidence says it was, there's going to be more deaths on this.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be lying. I'd be lying to you if I wouldn't say I wasn't checking my car every damn day, I'll tell you that.
Well, that's because you've lived in the real world. I feel sorry for the sheep out there that don't realize that the press is under attack. Did you see him on the Young Turks shortly before he died, Mr. Hastings?
Yeah, I was just watching that last night.
And he said, we declare war on this corrupt system that's declared war on the press. The press has to stand up together. And they were afraid of that Colonel Travis type attitude. I'm telling you, they were scared of him.
Well, Michael wrote in one of his books and on Reddit that he had been told, if we don't like what you write, we'll hunt you down and kill you. So, I mean, that's, you know, for him to say something like that, those are his own words. That's pretty intense.
I haven't read the books, but obviously I need to look them up. You know which one of his books?
I can get back to you on that one. I mean, that'd be
I'll search
easy.
it. Guys, search Hastings books. There's the Operators, and there's one other. I read part of the Operators online.
Yeah, I'm in the Operators. I don't think it's in that one.
Yeah, no, I've been... Listen. It's people that haven't gone through this just don't know. I mean, I've had him call up, tell me what I was talking about on the phone just so I know who it is, and then threaten me. I mean, this country is just in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I agree.
Listen.
With the interview yesterday, though, with Megyn Kelly, I was pretty upset because I was asked that, you know, some topics I wanted to go over, and as soon as I got there, it was just kind of bing, bang, boom. She kind of didn't really give me a chance to, you know, discuss them.
Well, sir, you've got that chance now. What are the points you want to make here?
Well, you know, like I said, I'm no journalist, and I don't know how to go about all this stuff. But, I mean, I reached out to Mercedes-Benz and wrote an email, and I don't know how often they're able to get something like this. But, I mean, one of the things that you need to find out is how often in wrecks with Mercedes, and on top of this, let's remember Mercedes is one of the safest types of cars there is, especially nowadays, that an engine, you know, comes out. And looking at the fire from that, I've been blown up in Iraq and Afghanistan and completely engulfed in flames, but it never looked that bright. I mean, it never looked that big. And I can tell you from firsthand experience from surviving, you know, IED explosions, it was never at that magnitude that car just, you know, spontaneously, you know, just explodes from hitting a tree.
Yeah, I've been told it looks like 5 to 8 pounds of plastic explosive, probably underneath the car, right where he was sitting, or in the dashboard. And they debate whether it was 30 yards up to 50 yards or longer that it shot this.
I've heard up to 100, and you know. And another thing is the eyewitness saying that they saw sparks before the impact, and then another person inside their house said that it sounded like a bomb going off. So, you know, cars hitting trees don't sound like bombs going off.
Well, plus, I've seen the photos, Staff Sergeant. It looks like it came to rest up against a tree. The witnesses said it blew up in the street and jackknifed, and then basically then was thrown into a tree.
Yeah, well, that's what I think as well. I was talking to one of my buddies earlier. The way the engine's lying, it had to have come out before even being near that tree. I mean, the car's not going to hit a tree, and then the engine, it would have been some kind of mark where the engine had, like, ricocheted off the tree and gone in some direction. Instead, it, you know, in the same direction of travel before this, you know. Yeah,
that's right. The car, according to like 3 witnesses, blows up in the street. The engine flies out the front down the road. Then it comes to rest up against a tree. If it hit on the side and the engine broke off, which, according to engineers, they say they're so bolted to that frame, it'd be incredibly hard to even break it loose. It would have shot through the fence into the person's house, not the opposite direction down the road.
Yeah. Well, we definitely need an independent expert investigation. And I'd love to try to get a fund to purchase the wreck and have it examined by someone. That'd be fantastic on all ends, because I really don't trust the LAPD to be making some sound decisions on something like that. I mean, how do you rule out foul play in a matter of hours?
Yeah, absolutely, sir. And then Breitbart, they announced he died of a heart attack 45 minutes after he was at the hospital. That's never done. The coroner wasn't even there. And then the guy that did the coroner examination died of poisoning a month later. I mean, come on, folks. This is getting insane. Now, expanding on this, When did you talk to his wife? I mean, was it at the funeral or via email? Was it the memorial or via email where she said that I'm going to take down whoever did this?
She, when we were at the service, she pulled me aside and talked to me, and she was like, you know, thanks for having, you know, basically the courage to do this and trying to help out. And she's like, you know, I'm definitely, you know, she's basically the way she said it, she's like, I'm going to do what I can to look into this with everything I got. And, you know, when she did it, she put her hand on me, and she just gave me this look, and I mean, she looked like a pit bull, you know, like she is protecting the person she loves more than anything, and she's pissed off. And it was the hardest thing for me to see, just because you could see how bad she was torn up. And it was a horrible, just to see that, you know, that man was loved by so many people. He was a great guy. A lot of people hated him when that story with McChrystal broke. They hated him. But I tell you right now, for the soldiers, I got much respect for that man. I respected the hell out of him. He spoke the truth, and he wasn't afraid to tell anybody that. And if they lied, he'd call them out. You know, why all of a sudden is it wrong to be truthful and not stick up for what's right?
There was a gentleman went by the name Colonel Six out of Dallas, African-American member of the military, and he would send me all this great info and said McChrystal's going to go down soon and stuff. And then about 6 months later, he did. And then Colonel Six said, I've got intel I'm going to give you. This is on record. And then it was in the news the next week. He committed suicide in Fort Worth. And it turned out he was everybody he said he was. Colonel Six was his nickname. And people can look up the guy's full name and everything. But it's just so many people. And I'm not trying to scare people for the globalist. I want people to understand, though, you've had a lot of military investigators killed that investigate missing money. You know, there's so many examples of this. And we need to stand for the free press in the memory of Michael Hastings. And I'll say this, I didn't really know who I mean, I knew who he was, but I didn't know if I, you know, really respected him totally or not, because I wasn't sure until I saw interviews he did about the NSA and saying, we've got to come together, you know, the government's coming after us, they're thugs, this is illegal, we've got to organize, you know, for American freedom. It was so powerful. And then I saw other interviews, and it seemed in the weeks, because then I went back and watched more, I went and watched interviews from a year ago. 6 months ago, they weren't the same. 2 weeks before he died, he was doing interviews and was energized with like he'd discovered incredibly bad things. And I mean, did you notice a change in him in those videos?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, when I was watching last night, I could definitely see a fire under him. He was definitely pretty motivated.
Wouldn't you like to know what he discovered?
Yeah, I do. I mean, we've just got to, like I said, slow and steady wins the race. This is something that's not going to be figured out immediately, but I've just got to have patience, and I've reached out to people via Twitter, and a lot of people have really come forward and been willing to help me. I got a guy that lives in L.A. who's pretty much an expert with the phobias. He's already sent one to the FBI, and the FBI has already sent back the letter, and he sent me a copy saying that they've received it. And we'll be looking into it.
Well, listen, all you've got to do is this. You got to start a defense fund on one of the crowdsourcing sites, or just set up a PayPal or something to get the basic money to go out there for like a month. You get his wife to sign a power of attorney to let you get the car. Now here's the deal. I shouldn't even be announcing this on air. They will try to scrub the car, but if you get there and it's had chemicals, extra chemicals sprayed, it's been scrubbed, still you'll be able to find explosive residue. You've got to get it to independent forensic people. But here's the thing. I got to warn you, just like they killed the coroner of Breitbart, I believe this was a car bombing. Understand, and you've been in combat, so you're not a wimp. I admire you, and I admire Mr. Hastings. I don't know what I would do in this situation. They will probably try to off whoever goes to try to do samples of that car. I'm telling you, this is serious business. Just like TWA Flight 800, reporters snuck in and got the explosive residue, that it was a U.S. Air Force continuous rod warhead. I had the top general on who blew the whistle, General Parton as well. They arrested the reporters and put them in jail for a long time for breaking into the hangar. So I'm just telling you, this isn't a game, and I know you know that.
Yeah, and like I said before, I'm not making any kind of, I believe this is what really happened right now. Like I said, based off facts, things don't add up right now. So whether he be murdered or it was an accident, I can't rule out the worst that would be him being murdered. I can't rule that out because right now there's no factual proof to disprove that. So
you'd have to be insane to ignore all the things that happened, all the ingredients.
There's going to be so many people out there. Most people, like you said, they just read their news and drink their coffee and go to work and they're happy, and that's all there is. You know, and they go on about it and come back to their homes or the white picket fences and everything's all lollygags and happy and all that stuff. But they don't realize that what people go through to really stick up for this country and things like that. And there's a lot of people out there as well that are willing to do whatever they have to do to keep some of their secrets down. So.
Absolutely. Well, I can only respect your incredible courage, sir, and I'd like to continue to get you on as things unfold. And if you need any help investigating this, if the family wants me to, I'm willing to go to Los Angeles. I mean, I'm committed to this, and if they kill me, I want people to investigate what happened to Alex Jones, just like you're doing for your buddy. You know, I believe that Mr. Hastings is, directly in heaven because God loves people that have courage and God hates cowards. Speaking, if you could talk to Michael right now, Staff Sergeant Biggs, what would you say to him?
That it was amazing to see the amount of people that he affected through his life. I just hope that one day that I'm able to have that much of an impact on people's lives as he did. He was loved by many. He was a fearless man. He was one of the greatest people I've known, and I have unwavering respect for this guy. And like I told his friends and family, I'm not going to sleep on this. I'm committed, and he should know that we're not going to just sit back and roll over, because I know if the roles were reversed, he'd do the same thing for me.
Well, Pat Tillman's brother pushed, and they found out he was murdered.
Yeah.
We've got about a...
Giving up.
Well, God bless you, man. I really respect you, and that's why I say our military is such great people. Even if these wars, many of them are corrupt and wrong, the people that are doing it, got in for the right reasons and have just done things that the average public has no idea how hard it is. And Mr. Hastings was in a war for freedom in this country, and he said that. And I just want to commend you for what you're doing, Staff Sergeant. We got about a minute left. Anything else you'd like to add?
Like I said, if anybody has any kind of information or anything like that, I just, they can contact you and you guys can get a hold of me, and you can find me on Twitter because everyone has been able to do it recently.
Give us your actual Twitter account.
At RAMBOBIGGS, at Rambo Biggs.